All right, Steeler fans, we are back. It is the winners and losers segment, and I love these shows. When you have a lot of winners and not a lot of losers, it is a fun show. And in this case, after the 44-38 win over the Cincinnati Bengals on the road in Ohio, worst state ever, you have 11 winners and 5 losers. So let's start this thing off like we always do with the winners. And everyone's like, oh, he's probably going to go Russell Wilson first. I'm not. Cam Hayward is the first winner on the docket. Listen to this stat line: 5 tackles, 3 solo, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 1 pass defense, and 2 quarterback hits. I'm sorry, but Cam Hayward has found the fountain of youth somewhere. I just want to know where it is. So Cam, can you hook a brother up? Now, I'm 41 years old. Love to find that fountain of youth that you found. He is playing out of his mind. I kind of go back and forth. What was the better play? Was it the sack of Joe Burrow, or was he when he absolutely devoured Chase Brown for a tackle for loss? Again, I watched this game with my daughters, and when Cam came in and they just said, oh my gosh, it's like he ate him. He devoured him. I loved it. Captain Cam in a big way. He's a winner. And if you didn't know that, you haven't been paying attention. The next winner, who actually hasn't been on the winners list much this season, is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has had games where he's played well, but not necessarily of the winner's ilk. So therefore, his stat line was 29 of 38 for 414 yards, 10.9 yard average, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked twice, had 126.4 rating. Just a tremendous job. Tremendous job. And I know Dave Schofield said in the postgame show over 200 of those yards came after the catch. So that tells me he was giving what the defense was giving him, and he was letting his playmakers go out and do just that, make plays. You check it down to Najee for a little 3-yard pass. He turns it into a 15-yard run. That's fantastic. That's a plus 12 net in terms of yards after the catch compared to air yards. You have George Pickens with a nice catch and run on the wide receiver screen for a touchdown early in the game. It doesn't matter how it happened. It's the fact that it happened. 414 yards passing. He completed 29 of 38, only 9 incompletions. And some of those were plays that I call DOA plays, dead on arrival. Plays where for whatever reason, maybe it's a tight end screen to Darnell Washington. This actually happened. And the Steelers dropped back to pass. You can tell right away the play's blown up. They diagnosed it. They read it properly. You just spike it into his feet, and you live to play another down that goes as an incomplete pass. But it was actually a smart play. Russell Wilson's 2 sacks even were plays where he either ran to the line of scrimmage and didn't get beyond it, or he just took the sack because they were going to get a field goal, and the last thing you want is to force something. Russell Wilson played a great game. He's in full control of the offense. I talked about that in the first half of the podcast. He's a winner. The next winner is George Pickens. 3 catches, 74 yards, a 24.7 yard average, 6 targets, 1 touchdown, and a 36-yard long. George Pickens is becoming more of a steady Eddie type receiver, a guy that you can kind of like, hey, we could get some yardage from him in a variety of ways. You can run the wide receiver screens. You can run him down the sideline. You can run him over the middle on a slant. All these things that happen with Pickens, he is becoming a more well-rounded player. We're going to hear from George Pickens here in the second part of this segment, but still, George Pickens on the offensive side of the ball is a winner. He's done a fantastic job. I love how Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson have really gotten him involved in this game. He is that type of receiver, so you want him to do those type of things. George Pickens is a winner. The next is the defensive pass rush. Listen to these numbers. The Steelers ended with 4 sacks, which is not some astronomical number, but 2 of those sacks went for strip sacks, forced fumbles. Nick Herbig had 1, TJ Watt had the other. The defensive front / pass rush also had a pass defense by Cam Hayward. And how many quarterback hits did they have on Joe Burrow? Oh, try 11. That's right, 11 quarterback hits. So the sacks, again, TJ Watt has 2. Nick Herbig has 1. Cam Hayward has 1. 11 quarterback hits. These guys were all over Joe Burrow. And this is something that, whether you listen to other podcasts on our network, they all talked about how when you pressure Joe Burrow, he is not the same quarterback. When you let him sit back there and diagnose things and just set his feet, he can rip you to shreds. They made sure he didn't have the time to do that. Kudos to the defensive pass rush. They are on the winners list. The next winner, super happy for this guy, Pat Freiermuth. Pat Freiermuth, his stat line, he has 6 catches, 7 targets. That's the number I love the most. Yes, he caught a touchdown. He had a 25-yard long, which was his touchdown. And he had 68 total yards with 11.3 average. But he had 7 targets. That finally, the Steelers, and then maybe it was just this matchup, I don't know. But they say, hey, 6 catches on 7 targets. We're going to give you the ball. We're going to give you opportunities, Pat Freiermuth, to go out there and make plays. He can win mismatches. He can create mismatches. He can win one-on-one matchups is what I should have said. And he's proving that. Finally, he broke out of that funk of less than 40 yards receiving. Pat Freiermuth had a great game. Thought he blocked well. He deserves to be on the winners list. Next, the chunk plays. This stat line should tell you all you need to know. Because honestly, I could have put so many players on this winners list that had individually good games similar to what Pat Freiermuth and George Pickens had. But chunk plays. The Steelers had 8 players. 8 players. Not just with catches, but with catches of 20 or more yards in this game. 8 players. And oh, by the way, you have someone like Darnell Washington who had 1 catch for 10 yards. He was close. He was close. You had Michael Pruitt who had a catch of 18 yards. He was close to being on this list as well. So, but you had 8 players with catches of 20 or more yards. The Steelers aren't just matriculating the ball down the field. They are moving it in chunks. That's a huge difference from what we've seen earlier this year and in past years since Ben Roethlisberger retired. They are moving the ball down the field. Russell Wilson's passing chart this week was phenomenal. It actually showed, man, he was really pushing it all over the field. Good stuff. The chunk plays, definitely on the winners list. Next, the third down offense. They finished 4 for 9. And some might say that's not even, 4 for 9. That's below 500. I understand, whatever. But it was the key third downs that were made. When you think about the perfect example is Van Jefferson, the 43-yard strike on third down to keep it going. When you think about Justin Fields, the last drive of the game, you just need 3rd and 4. He keeps it, breaks contain. He slides past the first down sticks. He stays in bounds. Game over. Huge, huge third down conversions. And unlike against Cleveland, where at one point the Steelers had seemed to have a ton of third down opportunities, they only had 9 for the entire game, which also shows you they didn't need to get to third down as much. All right, next, let's go to the receiving unit. The Steelers, my gosh, 29 catches, 36 targets, 414 yards, 14.3 average, 3 receiving touchdowns, a 43-yard long. The Steelers pass catchers were they were great. They had a great game. Didn't matter who. I will say that I was really excited for Ben Skoranek to have 1 catch for 23 yards. This guy does all the dirty work. In the post-game show, we tried to think of a comp. Okay, who do we compare Ben Skoranek to that is kind of like for a season, like a cult follower, like, oh, this guy does everything that never gets noticed, and then finally he makes a play. And Dave Schofield, I thought he had a great, I know Brian Davis had a good one too. He said Darius Hayward-Bay. It's a good comp. Dave said Matt Spaeth, another great comp. And as we started to think a little bit more, I even said, even if it was like a Miles Boykin, a guy that's a special teams guy, he's not going to see a lot of snaps on offense. If he does, he's probably just going to be asked to block. It was awesome to see Ben Skoranek, who is capable, by the way, as a receiver, get a catch for 23 yards. That's why the whole pass catching unit, they find their way on the winners list. Next, the takeaways. Steelers end up with 3. And this is not a team, the Bengals that is, this is not a team that was turning the ball over at some crazy clip coming into the game. This isn't a stat line where all of a sudden you're looking at, man, well, the Bengals turned it over so much. Looking back, the Bengals only had 10 turnovers the entire season coming into this game. They only had 10. They had 4 interceptions and 6 fumbles. They have 3 in one game, 2 fumbles and an interception, and one of them resulted in a defensive touchdown. Those takeaways were timely, they were necessary, and they all equated in a Steelers win, and that's why they're on the winners list. Next, an AFC North victory. I should start to, anytime the Steelers win an AFC North game, they should be on the winners list. Steelers are now 2-1 in the division. That is important. That is very important because when you have tiebreakers, the division record is what comes into play. So they're 2-1 in the division. They're still in the lead, and they got their first division road win in Cincinnati. There's still a lot of work to be done. Another division game coming up next Sunday against the Cleveland Browns. But when you win an AFC North victory, damn it, you should celebrate. And the last winner, and I know this is going to ruffle some feathers, and it's going to piss some people off, but Mike Tomlin's on the winners list. And you might think, well, why? I don't know if you noticed this, but the Steelers are now 9-3. You have 9 wins, 17 games, schedule 9. Can't have. Yep, that's right, folks. A non-losing season. Mike Tomlin has clinched another non-losing season. And I know that really sticks in the craw of a lot of fans, and they really hate it. And they call him mediocre Mike, and they think this guy can't win when it matters most. Well, you know what? This season, he's winning week to week when it matters most. So 9-3. Good kudos to Mike Tomlin, and kudos for another non-losing season, whether some people like it or not. Who cares? All right, let's go to the losers list. We have 5 on this side, and that might sound like a lot after a win, but I think there's some meat on this bone. I will be honest, and Mike Tomlin, I know he's on the winners list for the season-long accomplishment, but not everything he did in this game was worthy of accolades. I have on the first loser is the clock management at the end of the half. So Steelers get the football, they have 2 timeouts, and they're looking to add some points to the to their total before they go into halftime and they get the ball to start the third quarter. And so I thought that the clock management at the end of the half was absolutely brutal. I mean, inexcusable, completely botched. If you remember, they completed a pass. I want to say it might have been to Calvin Austin III, and it was about 14 seconds left. Might have been Jalen Warren. I can't remember. And I'm screaming in my basement, timeout, timeout, timeout. And even the announcers are saying, oh, they're probably going to call timeout. But they don't. They get on the football. And then all of a sudden, they end up just clocking it with 2 seconds left. And Mike Tomlin was asked about this in his post-game press conference. And they said, Mike, did you intend to call timeout? And he said, no. Like, wait, what? What? Why wouldn't you give yourself a chance to score a touchdown? You could have taken a shot at the end zone, maybe 2. You could have gone to the sideline, make it a more manageable kick. Now they make the kick. It's fine. And they end up going into halftime with extending their lead. But still, man, that really made me mad. That I just felt like that end clock management at the end of the half was unbelievable. Was it Matt Eberflus bad? Thanksgiving Bears? No, but it was botched big time. I am not buying what Mike Tomlin is selling. He messed up and he just didn't want to own it. Next loser is Joey Porter Jr. The dude had 6 penalties called on him. 4 of them were accepted. 2 of them happened in one flipping play. I mean, the stat line is how sloppy can it get? If you watch the game, there's not much that I can say that you didn't see for your own eyes. But if you didn't watch the game, I can only summarize Joey Porter's day as it was bad. It was bad. I would say it was downright awful. And, I know that Porter was given these tags when he came out of Penn State that he's physical, long, can be handsy. I get it. But, man, this guy is really slow to adjust. Really slow to adjust. He is in the NFL. This is his second year, call it a sophomore slump, whatever you want. It is time for him to start to adjust his game to NFL standards. They are going to let you get away with some stuff, and they are not on other stuff. And he does not have the resume that he is going to get the benefit of the doubt. In fact, I would say it's going to go the other way. That now there's a book out on Joey Porter Jr., and they're saying, watch out for this guy. He is a hack. That's exactly what I think is happening. So for me, Joey Porter Jr. is on the losers list. It's for this game, but he really has to clean up his technique. Really has to clean up his technique. All right, let's go to the next loser. It's George Pickens. Congratulations to George Pickens. He has now reached this rarefied air where a player is on both the winner and the loser list. This does not happen very often, but his stat line are the idiotic plays and penalties. This guy is prolific as it comes as a pass catcher, but his penalties are absolutely mind-numbing. And it's not just the penalties, it's the behavior. It's how he's going about his business. It's how he's stepping over defenders. It's how he's dropping the ball on a defender on the ground. All of this childish, immature stuff. When Mike Tomlin said he has to grow up, you got to grow up. You got to take it. You got a first down. You have all the momentum right now, and you just say, you know what? I'm going to go back to the huddle, and I'm going to score a touchdown on you. And that's the best way that I can shut you up, because I'm sure there's a lot of jawing going on. But this is unbelievable how immature and idiotic some of this stuff is. These penalties, I thought, and if I'm being completely honest, I thought he was going to get ejected. When he got the second personal foul, I thought he's done. They're going to kick him out of the game. And now the Steelers just lost their most prolific offensive player in the passing game. And so if I don't know what Mike Tomlin's plan is, he might say, like, look, George, you're going to have to face the music, which they already did. They had him up on the podium in the post-game press conference, but I don't think that benching him is the answer, but you got to get through to this kid somehow, some way, because he just can't keep up with these penalties. Because just like Joey Porter, there's a book out on him. There's a book out on George Pickens too. There's a book out for the defenders that are guarding him. Hey, do little things behind his back. He's going to get under his skin and he's going to lash out. It's going to be 15 yards against the Steelers. He's got to change. He has to grow up. All right, let's go to the next loser. 2 left, the pass defense. Cincinnati finished with 309 yards passing, 28 catches on 37 targets. They gave up 3 touchdowns and a 50-yard long to Jamar Chase at the end of the game. The Steelers' passing defense was shredded throughout the game. I mean, whether it was zone defense, man defense, doesn't matter. Unless Joe Burrow was being moved off his mark or sacked by the Steelers' pass rush, he was just picking apart the Steelers' secondary. And I understand not every team has the playmakers that the Bengals do, but I think that the game like this, a performance like this, should force Mike Tomlin, all the defensive coaches, back to the drawing board and say, we need to find a way to fix these issues. Maybe it is someone like Corey Trice coming in to help out. I don't know. I don't think he's a saving grace here, but I think they do need to figure out a way to avoid this type of performance again. Because while they win the game, you gave up 38 points, you gave up over 300 yards passing. That's not ideal down the stretch. And then the last loser, as always, the officiating. You know, I think Flag Fest, this is a stat line, the Flag Fest has now become a weekly event. For those that are curious, listen to these numbers. There were 20 accepted penalties between both teams for 204 yards. I will say that again in case you didn't hear me clearly. There were 20 accepted penalties for both the Bengals and the Steelers that totaled 204 yards. There were penalties that were declined for a multitude of reasons that don't count towards these totals. There were times where I felt like the officials were getting paid by how often they were on the TV screen. Every play, flag on the play, flag on the play, flag on the play, multiple flags on the play. I understand they want to they want to kind of rein this game in. It's a division game. It can get heated, get chippy. I understand that. But some of these calls and then some of the non-calls, whether you're talking about the pick six, not calling the guy who pulled George Pickens to the ground for his helmet, Orlando Brown Jr. jumping off sides almost every single pass play. It is egregious. It's embarrassing for the league. They don't care, but it is. And so that's why the officiating is on the losers list once again. I don't think officiating's ever been on the winners list now that I think about it. It probably doesn't deserve it. Anyways, all right, so that does it for me. This has been a lot of fun. These Victory Monday podcasts are always the best, better than the alternative. And now the Steelers have a full week of work. We're back into a regular rhythm of the week to get ready for week 14, the home game versus the Cleveland Browns. This is going to be a spicy one, folks, after how things went down in Cleveland, words that were said after the game, fake tough guy, Myles Garrett chirping, TJ Watt. This is setting out to be a big one. It's going to be a 1:00 affair on Sunday, so make sure you tune in to Steel Curtain Network, steelcurtainnetwork.com, wherever you get your podcasts, search Steel Curtain Network, find us there. And by all means, don't forget to get yourselves into the Victory Monday giveaway. find the tweet on at Steel C Network, or I'll retweet it from my own Twitter feed at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. Follow the directions, get yourself in the entry to win some free swag, and I'll announce the winner on Wednesdays at Let's Ride Podcast. Also, be on the lookout for Tuesday mailbag tweet. You want to get your questions in so I can answer them on Wednesday's show. But that does it for me. We finished out. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the victory. We'll see you on Wednesday. Go Steelers.